We are live. Let me get that audio though. Almost forgot. I'm glad I checked the audio levels before I before I start now. All right, let's just get this worked over. 1, 2, 3. Listen to that crisp audio. Wow, that's so nice. I love it. Hope you guys are doing super great out there. We're going to talk about some cool stuff today. The title you can probably see, Journey from Burnt Out Nurse to Super Nurse. Excited to share some of these things. I wanted to create a tangible, I'll say tangible levels or journey, right? Where you could know where you are on a scale of burnt out nurse to super nurse. And it's just giving words and language to what we already do in the program, but in a way that I think makes it more tangible and we can latch onto, kind of sink our teeth into. So I'm excited to share that with you. We'll go over that together shortly. That's going to be here. But before we do, let me tag everyone so that people know that we are live. We're also going to talk a little bit about today what the easiest way is that I've seen people go from no exercise to exercising 30 minutes a day pretty effortlessly. We'll go over that because some of the conversations that I've seen over the last week have been, hey, I just don't know. I'm just not motivated to start exercise. I have all the excuses in the world. So we're going to talk about that as well. All right. Let me know what you think of the journey and my favorite strategies for working out, for starting exercise, sticking. All right. We'll let that populate for a minute or two before we jump right in. But yeah, excited to talk about this because I am like a huge fan of having tangible milestones, and I have more that I'll share on this as far as what every level entails, right? But it reminds me of martial arts. So I grew up. Oh, is my mic on here? Yeah, okay, it's on. I grew up doing martial arts, and this was the exact belt system, right? It's like white, yellow, orange, purple, blue, green, brown, red, and then it would be like black belt, right? But we stopped at red. And yeah, I just love it. I think that this is so, what's the word? So cool, because then you can easily know where you fall. And I'll actually, yeah, let me pull that up too while we're waiting for people to join. This will be not well done when it comes to presentation. I just have this in my notepad, but I'll pull it up for us as well. And this like tells each level like what you need to do to advance to the next one. But it's a lot of text. So I'll pull this up. Screen capture, create new. This is going to be an application. Oh, it's going to be a window. It's going to be my notes. Bam, look at that. All right, we'll make this a little smaller. I'll put that over here. So we'll talk about that in a second. For now, I'll just put that there. And yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. But if you are here, let me know, and we'll get rocking and rolling together. I do see some eyeballs watching, so let me know that you're here. If you're watching on a replay, feel free to let me know as well, and we'll get rocking and rolling. So what I do want to talk about before we jump into all of this fun stuff, or I should show this fun stuff, is I've been getting the question, or not even a question, just I've been having a lot of nurses in our community that I've been reaching out to this past week. Just check in. How's it going? How are you doing? Are there any obstacles you need help getting over? And the thing that I've heard probably a few dozen times at least is I'm trying to start exercise, but I have every excuse in the world. I don't know how to stick to it. I feel like I'm right. And then that leads to guilt. I feel like, I'm failing. So the best way that I've ever seen somebody sticking to exercise that is currently not doing any and that wants to be doing, 30 minutes a day or whatever it is, wants to build up to it, is you just start at the lowest increment possible. We have to know that human nature is always three things, right? To go away from pain, towards pleasure, and to conserve energy. This is why one of the things we talk about often is no cheap dopamine, right? Now, granted, cutting out all cheap dopamine, your social media scrolling, your Netflix, your whatever, that being zero is kind of tough. But we do want to reduce it. And the reason we want to reduce it is because if we teach our brain that there's a way to get this low pain, energy conserving, high pleasure activity, you just do that thing. It's so hard to then switch and do something else that is higher pain, lower pleasure, and does not conserve energy, i.e. exercise, right? The brain has a really tough time with saying that that's valuable to do, which is why people don't do it. So how do you get over that? How do you kind of trick your brain? Well, what you do is instead of going from 0 to 30 minutes, you go from 0 to 1 minute. And I recommend a daily action. So I recommend you start the day, or it doesn't have to be start the day, but you during the day at some point, every day, do 1 minute of exercise. Because no matter how tired you feel or how you feel, 1 minute is easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? And usually what I would recommend people do is a plank. Now you're probably out there and you might be thinking to yourself like, cool, that sounds great, but like how effective is that going to be to getting results? Not that effective at all. It's a minute plank. But what that starts to do is build a habit, because then the following week you can add 30 seconds and then you add another 30 and another 30, not just to a plank. Then you add exercises and you add a plank and that warms you up a little bit, and then you do a set of squats and you can start adding in. It's very simple to do. And then before you know it, even if you were to not change a thing, you'd be at 30 minutes a day every day in a year's time, just by adding 30 seconds a week by starting at a minute. Now, of course, I'm not recommending that you do that to a T, but you can start to get the idea. Because if you do a minute, your brain, you don't have to justify the minute. You're like, of course I can do a minute. It's so easy. And then once you do the minute, following, you just ask yourself the question, do I want to keep going? And 30% of the time, you'll say yes. And then you'll do 2 minutes or 3 or 4 or 10 or 15. But every day, it's just the minute or whatever it is to start. And then you celebrate when you do more. And if you're with a coach, your coach celebrates. And if you're here, we all celebrate, right? There's no reason that you have to go from 0 to 30. Now, with that in mind, as you do progress up, if that's going to be your chosen path, I'd recommend that eventually you probably and are getting more intense in the workouts, that you just don't do 7 days and you reduce it to 5 and 4 and 3. And then before you know it, it's like if you were hypothetically exercising 20 minutes a day, 7 days a week, if you built up to that point, didn't change a thing, well, now it's easy to go to 3 days, 30 minutes, right? So you just have to kind of, I don't want to say trick your brain, but it's like you almost have to just go out in line with human nature. That's how you win this whole game. It's the same reason that like on day one, when we do your kickoff call and we're taking inventory, hey, what's your stress level? What are all these factors? We're looking at what are your favorite foods? Why should favorite foods matter in transforming your body? If you're a robot, it doesn't matter. Just eat chicken and rice. But we are not robots, and we have these things called emotions. And certain people like certain foods more than others, and on a scale of 1 to 10, derive more pleasure from them. So if we know how optimal or non-optimal foods are, and then we can just relate it to how much you enjoy it, we are aligning with not only human nature, but your personal nature, to include the foods that essentially are, I'll say, the most optimal, but also the most pleasurable, if that makes sense. Or even that aren't that optimal, but are just super pleasurable. So that way your brain links, oh, well, if I eat chicken, I can still have chocolate. Or I know it's a bad example. If I eat chocolate, or if I eat strawberries, I can still have chocolate. That's a better example. Anyway, hopefully that makes sense. But that's the lens that we look through everything. Like really simple. I'll say it one more time. human nature, stay away from pain, go towards pleasure, conserve energy. So if you can make anything you do down to the lowest increment and then build up, you win. This, again, this is the difference. You'll hear me say this until I'm blue in the face. This is the difference between building a house of cards and a brick house, right? What we do is we start you from where you are, right? Which would be essentially level 0, right? Being a burnt out nurse. And we take you from there and we just add one layer, which would be level 1. And I guess this is a segue into this, level 1, which level 1 would be burnt out, right? I guess you could say. And then level 2 is like recovering, level 3, and we just kind of work our way up. And I'll show you guys in a second what I have for each category and what I'm defining each category as. But that's the difference, right? Between building something that lasts forever and just trying to fast track there. The fast track is like going from 0 to 120 minutes of exercise a week, which for some people they can do it if they don't have a ton of disempowering stress in their life. But a lot of nurses have a ton of disempowering stress in their life from their work, from self-talk, from lack of sleep. So we want to make sure that we solve that first, get the foundations, and then we can build upon them. Because look, this isn't about, again, the next 6 weeks or 6 days or 6 weeks. Like, we have a year to do this. A year's a 100th, if you're lucky, of your life. This is a good chunk of time. So let's not rush it, right? Let's make it so it lasts forever. Hopefully this is resonating with somebody here. Feel free to let me know if it is. Tayanka, what's up? Good to see you. Hope you're doing super well. Welcome to the community. Stephanie says, hey, what's up? Good to see you. Lynn Ann, what's up? Is any of this resonating? Feel free to let me know. If not, well, that's a shame. So let me share this with you too. So a couple things. I'm wanting to take our program and bring it, if you just are joining, I want to take our program and bring it to be more tangible. So of course we're bringing people to lose weight and sustain it forever. But what does that mean for the journey, right? Like, we know where we're starting from, we know where we want to get to, but what are kind of the levels along the way? So this is what I came up with. Bam! So I'm going to make this really pretty in time, but I just really wanted to get some feedback on it as well. Up here, you'll notice these are kind of our 5 principles, which I've put them here. Right? What are the principles of a super nurse? A super nurse is just somebody that has broken through and will never go back to their old self. They believe fitness is an infinite game, not a finite one. Right? What's a finite game? A finite game is something that has a determined end. An infinite game is something you play forever. Right? The goal is not to get healthy. The goal is to stay healthy. Right? So it's not, I do this until I get my goal. It's, I just do this. Right? Number 2 is my body and mind shape my life. They're my priority. You guys already know this from what I've talked about before, but I believe that you have 7 areas of life mastery, right? You have your body, your mind, your emotions, right? Your emotions, what things mean to you. That's like how you view the world. Your relationships, time, career, finances, and then like contribution. The first 2, mind and body, mind, are your foundation. They literally shape your life. You've probably heard people say in the past that, and you might have even heard me say it, reality is not what happens to you, it's how you perceive it, right? Why is it that the same thing can happen to 2 different people and they have 2 different responses? It's because of how they view it. So that's crucial that mind and body are priority. Number 3, progress, not perfection. I adapt, learn, and improve my systems. At the end of the day, this is not us telling you, here is your perfect plan on day 1, follow it. There is no perfect plan. And here's the really funny part. If you were to do this program 12 months in the past, 6 months ago, today, 6 months in the future, or 12 months in the future, it would be a different program. Why? Well, there'd be similarities, but a lot of it would be different. Why? Because you're at a different point of your life. Now, granted, a lot of your favorite foods would be the same, blah, blah, blah. But your stress is probably going to be different. What external circumstances are happening to you, your emotional storms are going to be different, for different lengths of time and different intensities. So all of that would go into consideration. So just know that you don't need to be perfect. You just need to start, right? If anything, like here's the thing, starting, you're already playing the game. Just you might not be doing that well if you don't think you've started, right? But we're always playing. Number 4, life happens for me, not to me. This is probably the most powerful. This is one of the most powerful beliefs or mental reframes that you can take to win. Not only in fitness, but in life, right? Think about it. I think it was Albert Einstein that said, the most important choice you make in life is to decide whether you live in a hostile or friendly universe. If you feel like the universe and God or the world is out to get you, then you will find that everywhere. And you will probably feel pretty disempowered a lot of the time. But if you believe that life is a gift and that everything that happens to you, even the hard stuff, is trying to teach you something, and every time something like that happens that's maybe not good, you look at it through a position of gratitude, right? Which isn't always easy to do, but as a frame, you're going to have a better life. And disempowering stress will roll off you, which is a big piece of this game. It was actually, I talked about this earlier in the week, but I talked to 232 of our super nurses, right? And the 3 things that allowed them to break through, they had big similarities. The first one was they don't stay in disempowered states longer than an hour. So they have the ability to switch from disempowered to empowered states within minutes or hours. Number 2, what was number 2? I wrote it down. When they're going through emotional storms, they can maintain. So they don't focus on progress when life's getting really crazy and they're getting flooded with disempowering emotions, because then that can lead to bad performance, guilt that they're not performing well, and then backsliding. They dig their heels in and they just focus on foundations. So that's number 2. And then number 3 was... Let me look up number 3. I took my notes. Number 3. Oh, they committed to playing the long game. So it's an infinite game. I already mentioned it. So they believe truly they're playing an infinite game. They're not thinking about, okay, November, I'm going to be this weight. They're not even thinking about that anymore. They're just like, yeah, I'm going to get there. And that's the funniest thing. I've said this a ton of times, but the majority of my clients that have hit their final goal, the majority, which means over 50%, don't even realize when they're at their final goal for like weeks or months after they did it. Like literally they go to a doctor's appointment and they're like, all right, time to get on the scale. And they get on the scale and they're like, because they were just doing the actions, right? They're just living the life. And then they get on the scale and they're like, oh my God, it's 139. I've been 139 forever. Then it's there. And then I get the message and it's fantastic. But those are like the three core, right? The 3 core things that we all need. Sorry, I missed some of those messages, but Tianka, I think I'm saying your name right. My pleasure. Stephanie says, yes. Linda says, hi from Illinois. Journey to fitness is like journey of life. Starts at birth and goes to our last breath. It's totally true. Linda says, I'm a recovering perfectionist. Yeah, aren't we all, right? I think it's, it's something that we adopt. I think it's just kind of in the human zeitgeist. We all want to have that clean, permanent record. We all want to be perfect. But the fact of the matter is we are flawed. And I think I spent a lot of my very similarly 20s, and I'm still working at it, right? Like I'm still trying to be comfortable with not being perfect. But I think it's a balance. It's a dichotomy, right? On one side, we don't want to just accept mediocrity, right? That's no type of life we want. On the other side, if we beat ourselves up every time we're less than perfect, then that's going to lead us on a negative path. So don't want that. But let's keep going here. So let's pull this up. Bam! Program levels. So this is what I had gotten down for these program levels. it would be, here, let me bring this smaller so you guys can actually see that as well. Boop. There we go. So what would be like, level 0, being a burnt out nurse, that's where everyone starts. Level 1 is 42 hours a week of sleep, protein, 0.5 times your goal weight in grams, water, 0.5 times your goal weight in ounces, and your disempowering stress is a 7 or less. Well, what's disempowering stress? Disempowering stress is, we'll call it bad stress. So that would be stress that does not make you better. What's stress that makes you better? Stress that makes you better could be considered exercise. That's good stress. It could be sometimes deadlines, right? They could empower you to get something done. What's bad stress? Bad stress is fear, anger, right? Disempowering emotions, sadness, right? I'm not saying it's bad to feel those emotions or you should push them down. What I'm saying is we solve them, right? And then you get to the point that you don't even have to go into them anymore, or you go into them and you have like what I've kind of called the 90-second rule, which in the beginning is kind of like a 1 hour rule or a 4 hour rule, where you'll see that I write it below. You just have strategies to get out of those places, because from a disempowered state, you can't do anything, right? Like you can't move forward. When we're in a disempowered state, we get so shut down. Like think about that. I guess anger is the only one that we kind of want to do something, but it's still like a disempowering emotion. I guess it can be a little empowering, but it drains our energy. And then you have fear. That's definitely a disempowering emotion. It drains our energy. And I'm talking about the mental energy, right? Anywho, level 2. So the idea would be it takes 2 weeks to advance from level 1 to level 2. Once you're doing level 1 for 2 weeks, then you go from a burnt out nurse to a recovering nurse. These words can change. I just wrote down what came to mind. But let me know what you think in the comments for it, and I'll keep reading these as well. Lynn Ann says, your sound effects are great. Oh, thank you. Lynn says, yeah, mobilizes you. For sure. So level 2 is, okay, you've graduated from 42 hours of sleep a week to 49. Protein, you've gone from 0.5 times your goal weight in grams to 0.6. Water, similarly, 0.5 to 0.6 in ounces. And your disempowering stress on average has gone from a 7 to a 6. Well, how do you know what it is on average? You track it. So you track your stress every day, scale of 1 to 10, and then you average it out through the week. And again, you can do this without a coach. Like this is literally what we do. The thing that you don't get working alone is you don't get any like real-time help with doing this. And this is all we do, is we help people go from level 1 to level 8, which I'll get to in a second. But you can do this on your own, right? Level 3, 4 weeks to advance. You're sleeping consistently for 4 weeks, 56 hours a week, which is 8 hours a night, right? Now, I get some people working 24-hour shifts, 12-hour shifts. It's just, are you doing that in a full week? But if you have control over if you have a 9 to 5, definitely 8 hours a night, right? Protein, water hits the upper limit, right? Or we'll call it the goal, which is 0.75 times your goal weight in grams. Same thing for ounces and water, and your disempowering stress is below a 5. Now you'll notice that at level 3, going to resilient nurse, this is where things start to change. Now we have actual, we'll call them mental goals, right? So our resistance training has gone up to 15 minutes a week. And this goes right in line with what I talked about in the beginning of the live. 15 minutes a week, how much results are you going to get doing 15 minutes a week of resistance training? Not a lot, right? I mean, marginal. I mean, granted, it's the first 15 minutes arguably is the most results you'll get, but marginal at best, right? 15 minutes a week, that's not a ton, but it's all about building the habit. Can you do that? consistently. And we said in the beginning, the best way to incorporate is just 2 minutes a day, right? Just keep it simple. It's not about effectiveness. It's about building the habit in the short term. And then you stack, right? You stack 1 minute a week for 52 weeks. You're doing an hour a day. Now, of course, you wouldn't do that in a linear fashion per se, but that's the idea. Cheap dopamine, less than 30 hours a week. We haven't talked about this a ton. This is something that I never really talked about in the group, and I've more talked about one-on-one with clients. So let's define it. So cheap dopamine, in my opinion, is anything that, again, is low pain, conserves energy, high pleasure. So we all know, and you'll hear me say this a ton, we'll call it the triad, right? That's a fun little word. Human nature will always be to go away from pain towards pleasure and conserve energy. When you teach your brain that there are activities out there that are low pain, conserve energy, and light up your dopamine, right? Give you pleasure. Your brain does not want to do other activities that are higher pain, lower pleasure, and do not conserve energy, i.e. exercise. If you've ever done what they call a dopamine detox, which the name's kind of not true, but let's say you cut out those activities, you'll notice you're way more motivated to do other things that are harder. Why? Because your brain has a recency bias to the activities that you've done recently. If you want to feel more motivated, reduce activities that are low pain, high pleasure, and energy conserving. This is huge. This is a big one. So for level 3, you're doing less than 30 hours a week. Now, that's still a lot, but 30 hours, think about it. How many hours a week does the average person go on social media and watch TV? The average person, I think on the most recent study or survey, which was 2022 or 3, the average person went on their phone 2 hours and 23 minutes, I think it was, when I last read it, 2 hours and 23 minutes a day. That doesn't include the time they were watching TV, right? Damn, I think it's 3 hours for TV. So it's that's 5 hours a day. Whoa, so do we want to be average? Average person's overweight. Average person is not healthy. Do we want to be average? I don't think so. You're already not average in your career. You're a nurse, right? How resilient do you have to be to even become a nurse, right? Those NCLEXs are no freaking joke. It's so funny because I think my Instagram algorithm knows that I work with nurses because I keep getting all these ads for NCLEX exam help. I'm I don't need this. It's so funny. But yeah, this is a crucial one, right? The cheap dopamine. Let me know if that resonates. Let me know if that makes sense. Or if you guys agree or disagree. And then the next piece of that is self-talk. Self-talk over a 5, right? What does that mean? It means that on a scale of 1 to 10, you feel like your self-talk is over a 5, 10 being most positive, 1 being negative. This is crucial to getting mental energy. It sounds funny. A lot of us, when we think about getting energy, we think about losing weight and getting fit and eating the right foods. But energy isn't... if you want to regain energy right now, the easiest way to do it is not by gaining physical energy, it's by gaining mental energy. And you gain mental energy by essentially reducing disempowering stress, which is in part by improving your self-talk if it's negative. And there's a lot of ways you can do that. These, you'll notice, are all just outcomes. These aren't actions. These are outcomes. Because if you give your brain a target, creating the actions are a lot easier. And then level 3 would be 60-40 nutrition, optimal to non-optimal. So 60% of the time you're eating optimal food, 40% is non-optimal. And there's a lot of different ways we can define that, but we'll just keep going for now. Level 4 would be, again, maintaining sleep, protein, water. Disempowering stress drops on average from a 5 to a 4. Now, again, stress is not all created equal. Like we said before, exercise is stress, right? But if you have less disempowering stress in your life, you can incorporate more empowering stress. Work can be empowering stress, right? Like this right now on my body is stress. right? If I were sitting down doing nothing, there's no stress, right? That's not a stressor. But right now, even as I'm talking to you and I'm exerting energy and using my brain, like this is a stressor, but it's just empowering stress. It's different. And it doesn't drain my energy, right? Let's keep going. You've moved up to 30 minutes a week of resistance training. Cheap dopamine has dropped to 25 hours a week. Self-talk improved over a six or higher. Nutrition moved to 70-30. And this is the first level you'll see here. You spend 1 day or less in a disempowered state. This is crucial. I said it before, but one of the trends among our 232 nurses in our program that I talked to, the pieces that have led to their success is the fact that they do not stay disempowered long. Because think about it. What's the normal cycle that people go on, right? Why is it that people start their weight loss journey and then they ultimately don't get there? It's because they stop. Now, why would you ever stop? You would stop because you feel disempowered, because you're not getting results as quickly as you want and you feel bad about it. And then that stacks enough to where you stop. Because again, your brain will not keep doing actions that are giving you pain. If you are doing, we'll call them moderate pain actions, low pleasure actions, and they do not conserve energy, and they don't give you any pleasure because they're not giving you the result, you will not do them, right? It's not rocket science to figure out, right? We know that. So this is why having a coach can be so impactful, because they help you reframe and go from disempowered to empowered. This is why we talk to our clients every day. Why we don't just say, okay, cool, we'll talk to you once a week on Zoom. No, it's crucial that we're messaging you every day. Now, I say every day, but I try to, coaches, Sundays, hey, live your life. Sunday's kind of a flex day, right? But there's a reason that, having somebody in your corner can be so beneficial. But right, doesn't have to be a coach. It could be somebody else, but just make sure that it's someone that can pull you out of this disempowered state. Of course, our coaches do that professionally. And then you have level 5, which is, every level that goes up, you'll notice that you have to stay there longer to progress to the next one. Why? Because every time you advance further and put more on the plate, this isn't accounting for all the emotional storms, the uncontrollables that are coming your way. And what we don't want to make sure of is that you progress to a certain level, and then once you progress to that level, emotional storm comes, and then you get knocked down permanently. There is something to be said about having an emotional storm come, and then you pause, right? And you dig your heels in and go back to the next level, but it's temporary, and then you progress again. But we'll keep talking about that as well. I got to refresh this. I think the comments stopped coming through. Okay, if the comments broke, I apologize, but feel free to drop a comment if you're trying to say something. Okay, let's keep going. So level 5, it would be 8 weeks to advance, and you'll notice same as before, right? We stack upon it. Sleep 56 hours, protein, water, disempowering stress is below a 4 on average. It maintains, and now our resistance training is up to an hour a week or more. Hour a week. Cool. Got it. Cheap dopamine has dropped again, less than 20 hours a week. Self-talk is a 7 or higher. And then nutrition 70-40, less than 4 hours in a disempowered state. So we've gone from 1 day to 4 hours, right? These are skills. When people say oh man, I heard one of my clients say the other day that they're not them, but their sister. So a sister of one of our clients says that they weren't born with the happiness gene. It's funny, it's funny to kid about, but also that your words have power, and that is a belief. If you say I was not born with the happiness gene, how much effort are you going to put towards being happy? Probably 0, because you don't think it's in your cards. Plus, it's a victim mentality. Oh, well, it's just the way it is, right? Oh man, it's just woe is me. I wasn't born with it. Hoopla, right? If you want to live the life you want to have, you have to get rid of the idea of the victim mentality. Not saying that things that have happened to you were unjust. They probably were, right? Things that happen to us, like it's, I mean, I've heard some crazy stories over the years. I think it was, I'm trying to remember who said this, but I remember somebody said, you think you have problems until, you know, you meet up with 100 people, they all throw their problems in the middle, and you see everyone else's problems and you grab yours and run because, man, someone's always has it worse. But the fact of the matter is, regardless of what's happened to us, we have to take ownership and control, because only when we accept responsibility can we move forward. And it's okay. Like, I don't think it's disempowering to say, hey, look, I haven't been focusing on my body and my mind as much as I should have. We mastered this. But today's my day. I'm going to start today. And I don't need to reorganize my life or flip it on its head, right? That's what a lot of people believe, is that, I just don't have time. What do you mean you don't have time? You have time to live your life, right? Because that's all we're asking you to do, is live your life and do this one thing. And this one thing isn't 90 minutes of exercise a week. This one thing is switching out, or not even switching out, adding 4 ounces of protein at dinner or lunch or whenever, or adding this protein shake. Oh yeah, I could do that. Cool, that's what we're asking, right? That's how you build something solid. You don't do it by, like, I think that if you're in your teens or 20s and you don't have a lot of responsibility, you can do that. But for a lot of us, we've missed that boat. And that's okay. Like, it's not in the cards right now. We have a lot of responsibility. We have a lot of things. So we cannot go from, being a burnt out nurse, doing nothing, none of these things, to doing like level 8 overnight. It's not going to happen. It's not going to be sustained. It's like, man, have you guys ever seen the X Games or Red Bull? Like the Red Bull like jumps and stuff. It'd be like taking someone that doesn't know how to ride a bike yet and putting them on the top of 100-foot ramp and being like, all right, let's do it. It's like, what's gonna happen? The beginning, you're gonna look pretty good because you're gonna, like, the momentum is just gonna keep you going, right? But what's gonna happen when you start then going down, if you don't already wipe out? You're going to go to the first jump and it's going to be game over. And you are just going to go flying and it's not going to be pretty, let me tell you. So why would we do that in our life with fitness? It doesn't make any sense, right? You got to do what we were, supposed to do when we were younger. It's like training wheels. Okay, cool. Then you pick up some speed and then you go from there, right? Let's keep talking about that as well. No, of course. Hey, I appreciate it, Tianka. Smart. Hey, no, it's all good. Definitely be safe while you're driving. Linen. Maybe it was your sister that said that, Linen. So funny. All right, let's keep going. So level 7, you spend less than 1 hour in a disempowered state. Now, this is a skill that even I am still working on, right? Like I go between 1 hour and the next one, which is, or actually it's 1 hour. I go between 1 hour and 4 hours because, sometimes life just really hits you, and reframing it, to get out of it immediately is a little tougher. And we sit in those emotions a little bit longer. And, I'm here to say that's okay. We strive for 1 hour or less, right? Because a lot of times when things happen, like, ultimately, you're in control of how you feel, right? The emotions you feel are because of what you focus on, period. You always have a choice to focus on something different. It's like you lose your job, and of course, like, okay, you lose your income. And yeah, that's a really crazy thing to have happen, and that's stressful. But at the same time, I'm not saying ignore it, but you can focus on, well, hey, I'm in a profession that I should be able to find another job pretty quick, right? I'm a nurse. What else? Well, I have some saved money. Maybe you don't. I have, enough money for food tonight, right? Like, you can go so minute with it that you can feel empowered again. And why do you want to get back to an empowered state? You want to get back to an empowered state as fast as possible, because when you're in an empowered state, anything is possible. You're more creative. You can find solutions to things. When you're in a disempowered state, what's the point? Why do I even try? Everything's impossible. Why me? So we have to build the skill of getting to an empowered state as soon as possible. And again, this is why working with a coach can be so impactful, because you hop on your first call or you hop on your calls, and what's the first thing your coach does with you? They say, hey, tell me your victories. And if you're a disempowered state, you say, well, I don't have any. Oh, come on. Well, because you're focused on the negative. It's like, well, tell me about, well, I guess, I did drink all my water this week, but that's easy. That doesn't count. Of course it counts. 4 weeks ago, you weren't doing any of that. Okay, cool. What else? Well, I slept 7, but I know I should be sleeping more. That's more than you were sleeping 4 hours 4 weeks ago. Like, that's a celebration. And by the end of just this quick, almost like gratitude practice, this quick victory, you're like, okay, cool. No, I'm starting to feel better. And from that state, you can start to take new actions, right? It's so important that we realize that being in an empowered state is one of the biggest assets we can control to change whatever we want. And then you just have level 8, which is what we're calling a super nurse, right? And this one we want to stay at for 12 weeks before we want to be doing these things for 12 weeks. We want to be before you become, right? You want to be doing these things for 12 weeks, and then you are considered a super nurse, right? And that's sleeping 56 hours a week, protein, water, disempowering stress is lower than a 2. I mean, think about that. How much energy would you have if your disempowering stress was a 2 or less? Like, man, that's powerful. And a lot of that just happens in our mind. Your resistance training for 2 hours a week, your cheap dopamine is down to 5 hours of less per week. This doesn't mean you can't consume media. It just means you're not consuming cheap shit, right? What's cheap shit? Cheap dopamine is going to be low pain, conserving energy, high pleasure. Scrolling TikTok, right? I'm not saying you can never do it. I'm just saying if you want to make the other actions easier and you want to feel pulled towards them, your brain has a recency bias towards actions that you've done within the last week or so. So if it knows, well, I can just pull out my phone and feel good immediately. There's actually a story about this too, if you don't believe me. There was a story of a woman. They put a electrode in her brain. I believe she had something going on with her brain, but they put an electrode in her brain, and they gave her a button that she could click, and it would make her orgasm. This is not a joke. I don't know the study. I don't know the name. I'll have to look it up, and I'll get it to you. She clicks the button, she'd have an orgasm, right? Pleasure, 10. Pain, 0, 1. Conserve energy, 10, right? Super easy. She got blisters on her finger from clicking the button and lost a ton of weight. Why? Because she just didn't even care about food. She didn't care about anything. Just give me that button all day long. So if you want to destroy humanity, give them an orgasm button. Give them what's one step behind the orgasm button. Low pain, high pleasure, conserving energy actions, i.e. TikTok, Reels, Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, right? Can you still watch media? Of course. I recommend it, right? But watch stuff that is empowering. Watch stuff that isn't as candy, right? There's a reason that we don't want to eat candy all the time. And it's like, it's not healthy. It's the same, that's physically not healthy. Mentally not healthy to eat short form content. What's your mental health like? Like, this outcome is to protect your mental health, to make it so that higher effort things are easier for you to do. Please let me know if that makes sense. Please let me know if you agree. Please let me know if I am talking out of my ass. I think this is powerful stuff. When I started doing that, my life changed. When I started doing this, my life changed. 100%. Self-talk over an 8. Nutrition 9 to 10, 90-10 with nutrition, optimal to non-optimal, and being in a disempowered state less than an hour. I would be curious to know, where do you guys fall? What level are you at right now? If you are watching this live or on recording, let me know what level you fall at. Super interesting. Super interesting. Yeah, where do you fall? Are you a burnt out nurse, recovering nurse, recharged nurse? What do you guys think of the names too? I love it. Lynn Ann says, an unlocked morphine pump attached to an addict. Right. Very similar. Lynn Ann says, empowered state is high level functioning. 100%. Lisa says, going to research that study tomorrow. Yeah, we could even do it right now. I don't know if it was a study or if it was just like I think they were trying to fix something in her brain because she couldn't experience pleasure. I'm trying to remember where I heard it. But the part I remember the most is she got blisters on her finger from clicking the button too much. It's crazy, right? But like, that is crucial to just like, I think living the best life we can is reducing candy media. And, it's gotten arguably worse in the last few years with the advent of TikTok, right? If you think about it, YouTube or Facebook really didn't have Reels on them until they saw how successful TikTok was. And TikTok is essentially, majority content, 15 to 60-second content, sometimes even less, that lights up the dopamine in your brain and is low pain, conserving energy. If you wanted to destroy a person's ambition, I would give them social media. Period. Like, if my goal was to destroy I'll use my son. If my goal was to destroy my son's ambition, I would give him TikTok. I want my son to have the most ambition. I want him to live a quality life. So guess what he will never see? TikTok. Now, I say that like there's a lot of things that I believe in letting your children choose. I believe in giving them choice. This is too important to let them decide. I can't do it. And it's so easy to say like, oh, well, it's okay, or a little is fine. You're right. A little is fine. That's fine. Well, that's what they said with the lady in the orgasm button too. A little is fine. Hey, lady, we'll call her Sally. Sally, just click the orgasm button once or twice a day, okay? But when you know that button is within reach and all you got to do is get that little click and you are just, oh, cloud nine, you're going to click that shit all day, right? And it's the same thing with media. It's just not as intense, but it's way more intense than, watching a television program or watching, something educational. Like, I still watch a good amount of media, but I just listen to media that is not bite-sized, right? So I don't know if any of this resonates. It's quite interesting. But yeah, it's our mission to bring our nurses from burnt out to super. And this is our path to do it. And we're already doing it every day. I think we have a little over 500 super nurses, or I don't know if everyone's a super nurse per se, but close to, on the path to super nurses, 500 on the path. So I think this is powerful stuff. And I'm excited to flesh this out even further, because I just think that the more that we can define steps along the journey to becoming our best self, the easier it is for people to just have a target. Because I've heard that a few times, where on this journey that is infinite, it can sometimes feel like you're floating between every point. So it's like, now with these levels, it's a little bit more concrete. So yeah, that's about it. That's all I got. Hopefully this is resonated with somebody out there. Before we wrap too, any questions, comments? I go live not only to give you a source of motivation, give you some strategies, but also want to answer any questions and help you guys thrive. At the end of the day, through RN Body Transformations, I want us to have the big impact. The big impact to me, I've always said, like, I want to impact 1 million people, right? That's always been my thing. And then what I realized was I actually don't even need to impact personally 1 million people to impact that many. And that's how we fell upon our mission here, which is to impact 1,000 super nurses, or create 1,000 super nurses. Because I know that during their career, at least, no matter what profession they're in, right? And what like setting, they're going to impact 10,000 patients, right? Even if they're halfway through the career. So 1,000 times 10,000 is 10 million. We can have an impact of 10 million people just by having bigger leverage and focusing on the person that will impact more people. That's powerful. And then, like, if we really think about it, the number probably is bigger than 10 million. It's probably like 20, 40, 80 million. Because depending on, like, some nurses, they see a ton of patients. Like, you see 10,000 people a year, maybe not that much, but 10,000 people in a decade, or 5 years, depending on what you do. If you're in the ER, I mean, seeing quite a few people. But yeah, I think we can do it. I have I'm playing an infinite game. I have no target. We got to hit 10 million people by this time. No. Or we have to, help 1,000 super nurses by this time. No. That's the game we're playing. We're just going to keep playing. And guess what? When we inevitably do, we'll have a new target. Because this is an infinite game. The game doesn't stop when you hit a target. You just change the target. You move the goalpost. It's the same like saying, all right, I want to run a marathon on my fitness journey. Cool. You train for the marathon. You do it. You get it. You get everything you need. You run it. You do it. Wow. And then you're done, right? No, you just choose to do something else now. That's the name of this game. It's an infinite game. And I think the games that we enjoy playing the most, or the games that we're the best at, that we progress the furthest in, are infinite games, right? And we have to enjoy the process. We have to find ways to enjoy the process. Willpower does not last. It will not last in making this work. I think, I can't remember the philosopher that said this. It actually might have not been a philosopher. It might have been Naval Ravikant, who is kind of like a philosopher. He says, I don't want to say he says it because I'm not sure if he does, but somebody says, the person who enjoys walking will always walk further than the person who doesn't. So, like, if you enjoy the path, you're going to keep going. That's why we have to take the time to find while we're in the first few levels, we have to find the things that you enjoy the most about this process and double down on them. Like, running is probably not the most effective thing to change your body composition. Resistance training is, and eating in a caloric deficit, right? Not necessarily at the same time. But you might hate resistance training and you might love running. Fair. Do running and then incorporate resistance training to your running in some way. You'll always go more. You'll always go faster, further, right? Like, that's just an example, but you could apply the same thing to nutrition, the same thing to any ritual. Hopefully this is resonating with somebody. But yeah, that's why I want to make sure this group too is like mainly nurses, because I know these, like, a lot of what I'm talking about could apply to everyone, right? Anyone trying to change their body or change their weight, but I think it dilutes our community to have too many, at least, non-nurses in here, and doesn't help us reach our mission, right? Like, I've said it before. It sounds a little. What's the word? I can't think of the word. I was going to say egotistical, but that's not the word. It's like, can't think of the word right now, but it's like almost like, I hate to sound too high on my own supply, but I've said before, I want to leave a dent on the healthcare industry. But it's not because I'm the one in the hospital changing policies or changing the way things are done. It's because I'm helping the person who is the backbone of the healthcare industry, which is nurses, right? So I will never set foot in the hospitals of the patients we have an impact on. I'll never even know the patients' names. And I mean, technically, you shouldn't remember them either with HIPAA, right? But that's beside the point. I won't know them. I will never have reached them, but I will have been able to indirectly impact them. And that's what we're doing here. So that's what we're trying to do anyway. One day at a time. Fun, fun, fun. All right. That's about it. Rocking and rolling. Selective. Yeah, maybe selective. Who knows? Will you be making these level descriptions available? Yeah. What I'm gonna do probably is make them. I'm gonna make them pretty, and then I'll have them like in the group, circulating, and I'll be posting them everywhere because I think it's gonna be a kind of a part of our culture. Is like everyone will know their level, and like everyone working with a coach too we have, okay, what level you're on, and now, hey, we're graduating to the next level. And what I'd like to do too is I really want to celebrate with everyone. I want to do graduations. So like once everyone knows their level over the next month or so, it's like once a month we do these graduations, like just like you would with and I don't know if it's every month or every 3 months or whatever, but we do these graduation ceremonies. And it's like a big deal, and we like, I don't know, do giveaways, and we acknowledge people. And I think it would be cool too if we had a physical representation of what level you were on. Like, for example, whether that be like a bracelet, right? Just something that you wear around, or have the choice to wear around, that essentially reminds you of the journey you're on, like a physical cue. I've heard people talk about, and I even do this with my clients. We have visual cues around the house. So like there was one that Laura created, right? Visual cues. She put the poster on her wall. You can put them on the fridge. You can put them on your phone as an iPhone background. You can put them on your car, whatever. But it's essentially just, you see it and it triggers you to remember the journey you're on and certain things. So imagine if that was every time you looked at your wrist. And it's like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm level 2 and I'm becoming a super nurse. Like, I just think that's fucking cool. I think it's cool. I mean, I'm not even in the program, and I think it's cool. But like, I want to join the program. I want to join my own program because I want to be a super nerd. Yeah, like I want to be level 8, baby. I'm like super competitive in that way. But I think this is also a way to scratch the competitive itch of a lot of our clients, because it's like, oh, cool, I have a target now. I'm going to be the best. I'm going to be super, and then you can go quickly. So yeah, to answer your question, yes. Very similar to clinical levels that we do. Yeah, that's a cool way to put it. Yeah, I like it. How many levels are usually on clinical levels? 8? Because if so, right there. Yeah, I like it. It's cool. So in any case, hope you have a super great day. Thanks for being here. If you are watching this on recording, let me know what you think about the levels and stuff like that. And I will. I'll talk to you guys. Soon. I think there is a slight delay as well, Lynn. So I might miss some of your messages. As I go here. But if I do see any more come through that you respond to, I'll